Good evening and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm your host, Damian Dressick. This is your other host,
Christina Fasonic. How are you, Damian?
I'm welcome to the summer edition of WANA Live. We've been a little bit remiss this summer. I think we're going to be taking August off. We'll be coming back with some great writers in September when schools kicks back up. I'm pleased. I am doing this broadcast from my new office.
Excellent.
It's very uncluttered because it's new.
Yeah, so tonight we have someone who's been on this show before, and let me tell you a little bit about our guest.
All right.
Phil Terman is a recently retired professor of English with a rich and diverse career in academia. He taught an array of writing and literature courses at Clarion University and Iowa State University. As an accomplished author, Phil has published several books of poetry and essays, gracing the pages of prestigious journals and anthologies like Poetry Magazine, the Kenyon Review, and the Georgia Review. Notably, he has received esteemed awards, including the Anna Davidson Rosenberg Award for Poetry on the Jewish Experience, the Salzier Chapbook Prize, and the Kenneth Patchen Award. Phil, of course, remains incredibly active in the literary community, which we might hear a little bit about this evening.
All right, let's bring him out.
Hey.
Hey, Phil.
Good evening, Phil.
Great to be back. Great to see you guys.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So, you're working on some new stuff, which you might have a few minutes to talk about at the end in your community. And what will you be reading from tonight?
Okay, I'm going to be reading from a book that I helped with translating. I met Saleh Razak in about 2014. He sent me an email. He wanted to translate one of my poems that was online, a poem about Kafka. I was amazed that a Syrian guy would want to translate one of my poems into Arabic. He did. We formed a relationship, great friendship. He translated more of my poems into Arabic. I got a book of poems in Arabic because of his translations. But he was living a terrible life in Syria. It was during the Syrian Holocaust when Aleppo was being completely massacred. He lost his son, who disappeared and probably has died. He was in terrible shape, and our correspondences were has been one of the greatest things in my life in terms of learning about him, having a friendship with somebody in dire situations, but connecting through poetry, through sharing poetry. He's the most poetic literary scholar and writer that I know. I even told him about this show, and hopefully he'll tune in at some point, because he's now living in the United Arab Emirates. Oh. But in order for him to survive, I suggested he translate some poems from Syrian into English, because we'll be interested in Syrian poets. And he knew this, and he did many, and I helped him with the English, and we got him published. We got a chapbook, and then we got this book of a poet who I really fell in love with. We focused on his work, Riyad Saleh Hussein. He was deaf. He was mute. He died in 1928, not long after being imprisoned. So my friend Saleh was a good friend of Riyad's. But he was an incredible human being. He wrote this amazing poems. I don't know how he did it. Reminded me of Lorca in the translations in English, and just Vallejo and wild, imaginative, surreal poems, but very heartfelt. And Bitter Oleander Press liked him and published this book. And it's really an important document for me to have shared with Saleh.
Do you want to hold the cover up so we can get a good look at that, Phil?
Absolutely. Tango Under a Narrow Ceiling.
Okay, thank you.
Selected poems of Riyad Saleh Hussein.
Awesome. Well, we'll let you read a few of those, and we'll be back.
All right. Thank you very much. First poem I want to read is a poem called Syria, aptly titled, where Riyad is from. Oh, happy and beautiful Syria, like a stove in December. Oh, poor Syria, like a bone between the teeth of a dog. Oh, hard-hearted Syria, like a knife in the hand of a surgeon. We are your good and simple sons, who fed on your bread, olives, and whips. Forever we shall lead you into the springs. Forever we shall dry your blood with our green fingers and your tears with our dry lips. Forever we shall pave roads for you and never let you get lost, O Syria, like a song in the desert. Second poem I want to read is called Wishes. I wish to go to the village, to harvest cotton and breathe fresh air. I wish to come back to the city in a van full of peasants and lambs. I want to wash in the river under the moonlight. I want to see a moon in a street, a book, or a museum. I want to build a room enough for 1,000 friends. I want to befriend the sparrow, the air, and the stone. I want to put a river in prison. I want to steal the jail cells and throw them into the sea. I want to be a magician and hide a knife in my hat. I want to reach my hand inside and pull out a white song. I want to possess a pistol to aim at the wolves. I want to be a wolf and swallow the shooter. I want to hide in a flower because I fear the killer. I want the killer dead. Whenever he sees roses, I want to open a window in every wall. I want to build a wall in front of whoever closes the windows. I want to be an earthquake to shake the idle hearts. I want to place in every heart an earthquake of wisdom. I want to snatch a cloud and hide it in my bed. I want the thieves to steal my bed and hide it in a cloud. I want to make every word a tree, a loaf of bread, or a kiss. I wish for whoever does not love trees, bread, and kisses to please stop talking. Okay, I'm going to read the last poem. Well, the poem in the book called Room of the Poet. By the way, here's a picture of a wonderful drawing of Riyadh Saleh Hussein. Room of the Poet. He opens the door of words and steps in fearfully. In the room, some withering poems, words stretched on the chair, others dangling from the hanger, a wheat ear leak from between his fingers, birds attack the lips. He sees growing grass in the neglected library and a wellspring from the wall. After a little while, the night will attack him with moons and with nightmares. The trees of the jungle will attack him, the sand of the beach, the gravel of the rivers, and the empty wells that he filled with black letters. What does he take from the corpses of days? What does he leave except withering poems and dusty words? After a little while, the policeman will attack him, asking about ambiguous sentences and warning him about both the kiss and the bomb before he goes away. Here is the poet, opening the heart's window, closing his eyes, dreaming of a love poem. I don't know if I have time for one more, but if I did, I'll read it. Okay, if I'm not stopped, I'll read it. It's called a poem that I wrote about my relationship with Riyadh. It's called It's All Possible. Like a sudden explosion or attack of the heart, your poems arrive from Aleppo, that broken country. Deaf, mute, handsome, expansive, I'm told, like Whitman, with an affection for alcohol and women, a poetry star. Until you were tortured, imprisoned, the psychic scars penetrating deeper, then dying. One source claims of negligence, and another induced by heartbreak. Your friends found you alone in your apartment, curled on your bed, shivering, hallucinating, begging for a sip of water. Riyadh, no one in my country has heard of you. But here you are, beautiful in this charcoal drawing, hair black and thick like Lorca's, sculpted face, eyes dark, serious, and focused at some nearby disaster, diving into your ocean of images, birds, bombs. Poor Syria, you wrote, like a bone between the teeth of a dog, a knife in the hand of a surgeon. Riyadh, in your original, your words travel from right to left, from your Middle East to my Middle West. Can this translation give you back the voice you heeded in your soul's privacy? You wanted to build a room with 1,000 friends, no end of your wants, a pocket full of bells, an earthquake of wisdom, clowns under your bed. Riyadh, I try to hallucinate with you, to know those erupting rhythms. But what do I, raised in another scripture, our people enemies cursing each other even onto the next generations, have to do with you? That's what I would inquire, if we would sit in my small study, sipping tea in the light turning to dark, turning to dream that says it's all possible. Riyadh, you wanted to plow the galaxy, to live for all the dead, to place a river in the prison. When, eyes closed, you were smoking a cigarette, did your demons ascend? Little amounts of surprises, you wrote, which I write down now, after you.
Very cool. Very cool. Thanks, Phil. I
Thanks.
remember reading this work on the page right after this book came out, and I was really struck. But you talk about in your own poem about dipping into the well of imagery, and I was really struck by the power, the creativity of the images he employs. Really impressive.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's one after another. Some of the poems are 3, 4, 5 pages long of just all these incredible images like you wouldn't believe. It's like it's this image factory or something,
Yeah, and it's this kind of it's funny because it's like this idea of a national literature in this country mostly makes me nervous when people start thinking about this now. But to hear him writing about Syria with such passion
Mm-hmm.
and insight
Yeah.
and longing.
Yeah. And even though he was imprisoned in Syria for a little while, he also loved it, and, he understood. He was very political, by the way. He was a kind of a Marxist, and that's what got him in prison. But he was fighting for a more. The introduction to this book is wonderful because Saleh, my friend, and he was able to write about his personal connection with Riyadh, and the first thing he said was it was their notion with others to create a socialist Syria because it was a dictatorship, and it still is, obviously.
Right.
And so he had this real strong, this combination of political and surreal, poetic. That he was able to just bring those together, and just like so many international poets do, I think, living in those kinds of conditions.
Yeah, that was the other thing. The idea of language play and the poet as character.
Mm-hmm. And he was before. I mean, I can't believe that he had these debilities, but he had this imagination that was just brilliant, just amazing.
Well, I mean, is there anything more surreal than the military-industrial complex? And I mean, I can't even imagine how much worse it would be under a dictatorship than.
Yeah. While he has poems very much about that, he also has extremely strong, passionate love poems as well. So he has all of that, and sometimes he brings them all together. Sometimes, and he has this irony and sense of humor, that comes at you. Yeah, he's very playful. He was young. He died at 28, and he wrote most of these poems in his early to mid 20s, or maybe even earlier than that. He was. You think of Rimbaud or something like that, but he was extremely playful. His imagination was, he just loved the play of words, but also he had this combination fostering this. He had a mass following. He had a big following, and it still has a following, even though he died in 1982. People really caught on to him.
Wow.
This was brought out by Bitter Olander. What a
United States in English, by the way, that I know about, of a full collection of poems in English.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I know from talking to people who do translation work is that all translation work is difficult, but that translating poetry is some of the most difficult because of the imagery, but the line breaks and how enjambment and all these different things that is poetry play into it. And in your native tongue, it's one thing, but to translate it into another language, was that really difficult?
What's really weird about it is that Saleh translated it. He translated the Arabic to English, would send it to me, and I would work on it. I would work on the English to try to get what he wanted, but also to make it contemporary, to make it something that really spoke to me, and therefore to other English readers, and would send it back to him and go back and forth. And but I didn't do he did, and he's mostly a fiction writer and a critic. He's not so much of a poet, but he loves poetry.
So you're not claiming to be the Gregory Rabassa of Western Pennsylvania.
No, that's right. Maybe the Coleman Barks.
Awesome.
Because Coleman, he didn't know Persian, and I don't know Arabic really. But I did know Saleh. I do know Saleh, and working together with him, and just that's the main thing for me, and our relationship and friendship, and that this came out of it is just a pure joy, pure blessing, and that Riyadh can be read, all these years later,
Cool.
Absolutely. So you do have some fans here.
Oh.
Rebecca Landau-Nagel. Engel,
Oh,
said just beautiful. And Kirk Wise said good stuff. So you got some people watching out there.
Kirk.
I know that there will be some people watching this weekend. You are part of the planning committee for the Wildcat Mansion Literary Festival, right?
Yeah, Wildcat Lit Fest, it's called. And yeah, we're going to have it Saturday. And we're really excited about it. We're amazed that, I think there's, as you both know, there's such a strong interest in writing in Western Pennsylvania. It's really incredible. And so we're very lucky to have this very nice space to have it in. And I think that really helps. And we have a wonderful committee, and, it seems to be gelling. I think it's a good time. People are ready for something like this, and, have been, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well,
happy Lori Jaquila and Dave Newman are joining us, and, and
great
John,
folks.
Owner of the mansion, is a screenwriter who's took part in writing Meet the Robinsons, if you've seen that movie. And he's owner of the mansion, and he's been very gracious about being part of it. So kind of cool.
Well, I hope it goes well, and WANA would certainly like to be there if we didn't already have a commitment that day. So
yeah, you guys have you have nothing else to do, right? You guys do so much; it's incredible. I'm just amazed that you so much. Such a wonderful resource, and turning everybody on to all these poets every month is for how long? A long time. You've been doing it for a long time.
It's a while, yeah.
Almost 3 years. So
how many years?
Wait, no, 2002. Oh, it's been more than that. We started in 2020, March of 2020. So
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's been a minute.
On behalf of all the writers, thank you.
At first, we were twice a week, and then we've been once a week for
once a week. That's what I thought. Once a week.
Time, yeah.
That's incredible.
Took a little summer hiatus, like everybody does. So
yeah, boy.
But we will be back in September, and we wish you, Phil, and everyone.
We've got. I know we have Cindy Spears coming on, and we've got a few other fun folks lined up. So
I'm sure you do. I can't wait.
All right. Thanks a lot, Phil, and thanks a lot for everybody tuning in. See you in September.
All right. Enjoy